This is Gabriel Gonzalez for Cage Side Press here with UFC flyweight Miranda Maverick, who takes on Shanna Young August 20th at UFC 278. Miranda, so a little over a month out. Just talk to me. How are you doing? How are you feeling having this fight booked with everything?
I'm doing great. I've been waiting for a fight now since basically my Sabina Mazo fight. That one was short notice and I was ready to get back in there right away. I've had about 4 fight offers since that day, and every girl has turned me down that I have gotten offered or picked another opponent, which I consider to be the same thing. And so I'm really glad Shanna Young took this fight. We've actually met before in the cage as professionals back in the 3-fight one-night tournament for Invicta, the Invicta Series 2 Phoenix Rising tournament. And I fought her in the second round of that tournament, and I won it. So I'm very confident going into this fight, but I'm of course not overlooking the fact that we've both gotten better. We've both gotten different skills in between. And she's also going to be a little bit bigger frame than me, having fought at 35 in times past. But yeah, the game plan's coming together and I'm really excited about it.
I gotta say also, I feel like someone with just a little more, and I say this respectfully, longer in the tooth. It feels like everyone you fight is under 24 years old somehow. And we've talked about this. It's like I think it's one of the few divisions where all the young people fight each other. They don't have the young girls or guys with the veterans. I'll start with this one. What do you remember most about how you felt in that fight with Shauna, and what are you expecting to be different since it is a rematch and you've obviously grown, changed teams, etc.?
Well, at the time, I was just then starting to learn striking a little bit better, slowly transitioning from being a full-blown grappler into more of a striker as well, and being well-rounded. And now I feel almost more confident in my striking than I do my grappling. The tides have shifted there, and I just feel very well-rounded. She took a couple of years off, had her kid and everything. I think that's going to work to my advantage, which some people need breaks, so she's going to come back strong and hungry. She's also coming off a couple losses in her UFC career, but so was I. I just feel like they were different levels in the game, and so I'm excited to go in there and kind of put it all together this time. In the last fight, I think she had the striking advantage and I still managed to take her down. If anybody ever goes and watches that fight, she caught me as I threw a kick and punched at the same time. It wasn't like she knocked me down from getting knocked out or anything, but I tripped, and on my way up, I was able to get a takedown. Finished her with a rear naked choke about a minute later once I completed the takedown. And honestly, I don't see it being different as far as I think I'm going to be the better grappler in this fight, but I think this time I'll also be the better striker. I really don't see a way I lose unless I get caught, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Your performance against Sabina, recently, very impressive. And we talked about it a little bit. You have 2 fights not go your way, not the best feeling for any athlete, certainly any fighter. Just talk to me about getting in that cage for that one and just how you're feeling now, obviously now getting the monkey off of your back, so to speak.
Yeah, the Macy Barber fight, I still don't think that was really a loss. I don't really count it as such in my mind, although I want a rematch real bad. The Aaron Blanchfield one was an off night, but that's no excuse. I had a lot of things to work on after that fight. And I finally went up against a better grappler, and I think I needed that in my career to improve where I needed to improve. And so going into the Sabina fight, I fought very different than I usually do. I listened to my coaches. We had a whole new game plan, added a lot of tools into my game, and I showed some of those inside that fight. And I was really proud of that performance, taking it slower than I normally would, being really calm in positions, like the guard almost the whole first round. Every time I'd take her down, I just stayed calm and learned to get the right places there. And then finally finished her when I felt it in the second round. And this fight, no different. I improved between every single fight. I think that's a benefit to being young in the sport and not having maybe so much experience years-wise in the sport, is that big gap of improvement between each and every fight. And I've basically been in 3-fight camps back to back to back right now, because I've had teammates that are getting ready for fights who I've been basically their main training partners for, right? I had a girl, Kat, I think she's not in the Invicta fights coming up, but she was going to be Lauren Murphy getting ready to fight Misha Tate. I've been her main training partner through her whole entire camp, trying to emulate Misha. I've stood orthodox this whole past 3 months almost. So I've been really upping my game as far as being able to switch stances, being very confident from my striking and grappling from both stances. Just so much has improved since I've came here to Colorado.
I did want to ask you about working with Lauren Murphy. Look, obviously, not just a veteran, not just her experience, but someone who most recently in their fights was fighting for the championship, knows what it's like to be at that level, knows what it's like to have to claw back a little bit after some losses too. Just what kind of experience does that bring? Is it just about for in your own mind, like, hey, I can hang with someone who's fought for the title? Is there knowledge that she shares with you? Just talk to me a little bit about how you grow working with someone who has that experience.
I think kind of all the above. It's definitely a mental game of getting to see where you stand against some of the better people in the division. But on top of that, it's also being able to get that wisdom, that knowledge, both from inside the ring perspective and outside mental game, the coaches, all that kind of stuff. And Lauren, I'm really glad to have her this last few months. It's been a heavy grappling. You know, Lauren has really good grappling. She's really strong. Very durable person, and coming in there and going with me was just really helpful for not only my camp, but I think hers as well, and the whole team. You know, everybody gained something from her coming to the team, just like they would with anyone. To be honest, you can find anything to learn, and it's amazing how all of us have such different skill sets, such different styles, and she's coming from another gym, bringing in these tools that we're like, wow, where'd that come from, or how'd you do that? And so after sparring or after training, we'd sit there for an extra 30 minutes going over these moves, videoing them, analyzing them.
You announced the fight, and some of your fans, they said, hey, respectfully, I was hoping to see Miranda fight someone maybe a bit of a bigger name. You did just allude to some other girls did turn you down or take different opponents, but you did say, well, have to be a little bit of the Sean O'Malley approach, and I'll fight them when I get paid more.
Yep.
Can I ask, where are you with that? Has it been a little bit of that case where it's like, well, you feel like the pot needs to be sweetened a little bit for some of these bigger name girls, perhaps?
It's a little bit of both, right? Like they've offered me higher girls and I've taken the fights, and I'd be happy to fight top 15. But if they want to give me somebody who's a brand new name coming into the UFC or someone who's not ranked, I'm more than happy to take that until it starts mattering with the money. And when I'm getting paid enough to fight these top 10 girls, I'm going to be like, hey, like, don't give me the slackers anymore. I'm running for a title run. But right now, that's not what I'm aiming at. This is going to be the last fight on my contract. I was going to renegotiate, and well, that didn't happen. So instead, we're basically fighting it out. So this one, I feel like not necessarily a lot of pressure because I'm confident either way. But I'm hoping that I can get a little bigger money for this one and then go forward after that to get the bigger, better opponents. Back when I fought Macy, I was already fighting top 15 girls when I was in my second fight in the UFC. And I was like, hey, I need paid more then. And now I feel like all of us should be paid a little bit more just compared to other professional athletes. Everybody wants to compare to other MMA promotions, but I don't think that's accurate. I think it should be compared to other athletes in general. And some people have great sponsorships that get to like champion status or that are from other countries. But I will say in the US especially, I feel like there's a lot less support from the whole country for these athletes.
I do think there's something to be said for that. It feels like, and I've heard this be said, and I do think to varying levels it's true. When you come from other countries, it seems like a bit of the national pride will carry with an athlete in an individual sport. Whereas in the United States, everyone cheers for their favorite, which inherently isn't a bad thing. But do you feel like that's a bit of a thing? Like, you know what? Sometimes it's just being from the same place in USA, you just don't feel the love for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't feel, whether it's a culture thing or whatever else, where there's just such a high population of fighters from here. The whole nation isn't exactly behind the sport of MMA to begin with. So I don't think you do feel the same emotional pull from the national perspective.
And then I want to ask you, obviously updates on everything. Where are you at with completing your master's degree? I believe that's the one you were on. I know the PhD thing, that chapter is closed. Did we get the master's, Miranda? Do you have paperwork that says you're smarter than me?
Not yet. I basically have everything done except for the final piece of finishing the thesis. I've been waiting for a review to get back from my professor, and I know he had COVID for a while, and now I think he's on vacation for a month. I honestly haven't even heard from him, so it's getting kind of frustrating on my end. I feel like I should already been done with this and gone from the school a long time ago. So I'm just playing the waiting game. I feel like they're just kind of holding my fate in their hands and playing with it as long as they can. And I've literally had someone say to me before, "You look like you're doing fine. You can take your time." And it's
Oh,
more,
that's the worst.
more than irritating. And I'll definitely voice about it once I'm done with this.
They are aware that you have this job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you do know, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you're not going around, intimidating people, flexing on them in the rash guard, but
Almost like it's a jealousy thing. I really don't know. It's really frustrating, especially to come from that academic world where they're supposed to be encouraging the diversity and, the whole women's empowerment. That's like a whole thing of their agenda. Yet, if you actually go out to do that, it doesn't seem like they're behind it. I don't know.
well, not to get you in trouble at your school, but Miss Maverick's professors, please let's get this done already. This young lady's trying to, be a woman of the world and just learn everything and get to business. So let's help her out with that. Thank you.
That would be. But to be fair, I do have a good job with or without my master's. I'm right now working as that contracted statistician for Hershey. Kind of staying in that role. I've taken on a few more hours and I feel like I'm doing a lot more with that job. But it's been a very rewarding experience working for them too.
Being, ingrained in the company like that, do you have the email as someone who could get you some sponsorships? And, I mean, look, you go out there, choke someone out, brought to you by Hershey.
I know. We've been working on it. They send me free chocolate every once in a while, but I'm still trying to go for a corporate sponsorship.
You know what? Hook it up, Miranda. I'm not. Hey, I'm not too proud to beg. Send it over.
Yell them out on the mic this time. Maybe somebody will hear me.
There you go. Hey, share the love too. By the way, I love Hershey's chocolate.
All right.
To talk about some other stuff you have going on. I know you have Art of the Maverick, so people can reach out to you, commission some pencil artwork. I know that your, very handsome husband Pete is one of your biggest muses. I see you posting about him a lot. Not only art, but also your Patreon. So, that the idea of the fan site, and there's certainly some names for it. Some fighters use them for different things, but you are tipping your toe in the game. Specifically, fans can get content like, hey, ask you questions, connect with you.
I'll talk about it. It's exclusive content, but it's not going to be anything sexual or anything crossing any lines for me. And I made that very clear on my post. The Patreon site, yes, we can do live chats. You can ask questions about anything from how to cut weight, different nutrition, lifestyle, diet, training techniques. I'll be posting videos of live training and like behind the scenes when I'm in locker rooms and stuff like that. Just kind of follow my journey via Patreon, and I'll also do some technique videos every once in a while to put out exclusively. But yeah, nothing more than that. And I said, if anybody asked, great, I'm glad I got your money or whatever, but I'm not sending you anything. And also with that, I would have done OnlyFans, but just the stigma behind it, I refuse to support at this point. Patreon seems to be much cleaner, much better for the way that they're kind of promoting their stuff in the way that I would like to be seen. And there was even like sign-on bonuses and stuff offered with OnlyFans, and I refused that just to kind of stick to my word. I said I'd never do it, and I don't plan on it.
And I respect that a ton, Miranda. I think for people who know you, you are someone, you live your life a certain way. And I think that's always something a lot of people know. I have a couple more as we round home. This one, I was listening to your interview with Ashley Evans Smith, and you were talking about, look, I think everyone said it, since you're in the UFC, you are, one of the younger athletes on the roster. But you talk about it, you're someone who's already got your career goals, already, getting married, looking for marriage when you were dating. I gotta say, Miranda, and here's maybe my question. You seem like a very cool person, seem like a young lady who's got your stuff together, probably had a lot of options before you were a pro athlete, now in the UFC even more. And it just seems like, you always knew what you wanted in life, but were there ever times where you're like, you know what? I am young. Now is not the time to settle down. Now is the time to maybe, quote unquote, get experience and do other things.
Yeah, that's why, honestly, I feel like I waited a long time to start dating. The whole thing of, well, you settled down early. It's like, Yeah, I might have. I started dating pretty late compared to most girls, though. Like most are 12 or 15, which I think is kind of ridiculous. My dad's rule was always, if you want to act like an adult, then get out and live on your own like an adult. And so that's kind of what I did. And I didn't even have an interest to even seek that kind of thing until I was far into being independent and on my own. And I was very focused on starting my career and getting my school path and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do in life. And like you said, I did have many paths I could have gone on. At one point it was a military thought for me. At one point it was medical school, and then scholarships came and I decided to just go and get my industrial psychology degree as a bachelor's and then go on to get what I thought was going to be my PhD. And, I always joke that a couple things good came from Virginia, and that was my current husband and my striking technique, and everything else it just I couldn't stand the experience there, maybe mostly because of like the toxicity surrounding school and other things there. But yeah, I just had it figured out. My dad always really preached into me and my siblings, like, figure your stuff out or you're just wasting your time, and does that mean that you'll have it figured out? No, but you should at least have a rough plan. And if that doesn't work, then go to the plan B, go to the plan C. And I've had more failures than successes in life, but I just keep my hands dabbling in 20 different things at a time, which people can see as a weakness and I see as a strength.
What advice would you have? Because I think that for a lot of young people, male or female, I think that there's plenty a lot out there who still share these kinds of views, but then it's like there's that peer pressure, right? Like, no one does that anymore, so to speak. Just what would be your advice to people who are like, like, am I doing the right thing? This is just how I want to live my life, and some people just don't agree with it.
Well, for one thing, most of your friends who you think are friends are not. And when things go wrong or aren't beneficial to them anymore, they aren't going to be your friends. I have very few friends and my circle is small, and it's a very loyal and good people circle, right? But it's not that I talk to them every day or go out and drink with them every day or anything like that. I got ostracized and people didn't like me a lot because I wouldn't go out to bars or go hang out or whatever the case may be. I did that a couple times and it never was good. I never had good experiences doing it. And I am fairly traditional in the way that I live, as far as, old school or however you want to say that. And it works for me. I think it aligns better with not only my religious beliefs, but what I want to do in life. The lifestyle surrounding MMA isn't one where you can goof off all the time. I know a couple of people who do and have made it really far, but I'm not able to do that. And not many people are. They see these role models and say, well, they drink a lot or they smoke a lot or whatever the case is, I'm going to do it too. And usually they never make it anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're a couple special individuals, right? Not everybody can do that. So my main advice is do what you need to do for your own success. Like, you do have to be selfish at the end of the day and then include others, be the role model for others, lead for them, inspire them. Don't bring yourself down to their level just to get people to like you.
I appreciate that. I think that helps out a lot of people, because I do know that there are who look up to that and who look up to you for those reasons. Miranda, we are at that part of the interview where I ask you the really, really important questions. I could tell the most important question for you: what were your thoughts on the new Top Gun Maverick movie?
I really liked it, actually, in a very, it was like, is it an American classic or the corniest movie you've ever seen? And I'm like, both. It can be both, right? I love it. Obviously my last name's Maverick. I grew up watching Top Gun. I've watched it probably 20 times in my life, if not more. And so watching this, I almost could script the first movie. So every line that they had that was from the old one, or every, collaborating scene or whatever, I was like, this is great. I will say the cinematography was amazing. The scenes with the jets, I went and watched it in theater in the RPX, so it had the really good audio, the really good film. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, but mainly because of the corniness and how funny it was. But I really enjoyed it, especially for being a Tom Cruise movie, and I'm not a huge Tom Cruise fan.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that's blasphemy for someone named Maverick.
The Scientology thing and that whole thing behind that, I can't get behind and support him.
The Top Gun walkout, I was on ESPN Plus. We talked about this. It broke my heart. I'm like, they're gonna run it. They're gonna run it. ESPN cuts to commercial. They don't show the walkout for the Sabina fight. I heard it was epic. Everyone who told me it was in there said, "Oh, it was awesome." She came out with the glasses. It was cool. Where are we at with the walkout this time?
It's probably going to be the same thing, and I'm hoping this time, there's no way they can't show it since it's a whole crowd in there and everything. But I will say they were supposed to have shown it on UFC Fight Pass, is what I heard. But then if you notice, the whole Vegas 60 card isn't available on UFC Fight Pass. It always says something's wrong. It'll say like not connecting or not working or whatever. And I'm like, the one card, the one card I'm on is not going to be able to show on UFC Fight Pass. Come on. So this time I'm really hoping they have it. At least we got a couple good pictures out of the whole thing. But yeah, the flag, the glasses, I think that's what I'm kind of going to go with. I've always loved the song. I'm actually going to have something even more eventful in my life with that song up pretty soon. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Finally, what can fans expect when you get in that cage against Shanna Young coming up at UFC 278?
The most well-rounded version of me you've ever seen. I plan on going in there mean. That's one thing I've lacked is like intensity. I won't say intensity. I feel like I'm always intense, but as far as speed and just going in for the kill, it's been a while because I try to be careful. This is a long game, not a short game I'm trying to play. But against Shanna, I'm experienced with her before. I know she's going to come in there hungry, especially with a couple losses coming towards the end of her contract, from what I understand. And I'm going to be ready for anything she throws at me. And I think she's going to be very surprised by how well-rounded I am. My striking, my own wrestling, my jiu-jitsu, all of it.
Miranda, I know it's going to be another good one. As always, I appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Miranda Maverick taking on Shanna Young at UFC 278 on August 20th. You guys are not going to want to miss it.
Yep. Go check me out on @FearTheMaverick on Instagram.